What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we're back with another Destiny 2 video with some stuff to discuss. It's been a pretty quiet start to the year, but actually quite a lot is going to be happening very soon that I did want to talk about. Some things you already know, like the last word returning on Tuesday and the big update. But there's some other things you might not know about, like Uldren, the Queen, and what they're up to in the Dreaming City. As well as that, we've got some Season 6 info and a few important updates from Bungie, things you should know before everything kicks off next week. So, as usual, lots of stuff to get through inside this video. If you do enjoy it, a like rating is much appreciated. Let's get into it. So let's kick things off talking about the Queen, Uldren, the city, and even the raid as well. What is going on there? So, of course, this story is still actually going on very, very slowly, if you can call it progressing. But every week there's been new voice lines. The characters are kind of on the verge of giving up trying to beat Savathun and her curse on the city. Now, more recently, the Queen and our Ghost had basically a full-blown argument through 2 different weeks of dialogue. The Ghost was criticizing her leadership, and the Queen was saying, you don't know what you're talking about. So things are getting very heated for sure. Now, the interesting thing is that that bit of dialogue from the Queen was the very first time we saw or spoke to her since her brother's come back to life and now is a Guardian. So she went to see him, of course. She disappeared when he came back to life. Don't know what happened, but she's now back, and she clearly is not very happy with us. Now, what's more is the next time the Queen visits us is actually going to align with a few other things, because it is also next Tuesday. So the last word quest line, the big update, and the next time the Queen visits all land together. This Queen visit is actually going to be the 7th time she has visited. So, of course, a very significant number for Bungie, and very possible they could do something special for it. They often do. But seeing as last time she just yelled at our Ghost, I would be very surprised if the topic of her resurrected and now Guardian brother doesn't come up in conversation. So keep an eye out for that, definitely. On the topic of Uldren, that is an even bigger mystery as to what he's doing, but we do know he has a few possibilities, most likely ending up as the Hunter Vanguard. A lot of people don't believe it's going to happen, but it is a very real thing, the Vanguard dare. In Cayde's last mission, it even says that once again, whoever kills him has to do his job, no choice in the matter, especially if it's a hunter, which of course Uldren is going to be. So this very line was Bungie foreshadowing Uldren's future. Again, not saying he's definitely going to replace him straight away. It's probably not going to be as simple as that, but it's definitely where they're heading. Now, it is also worth noting that no hunters ever actually want to be the Vanguard. It's not a glamorous job. Cayde was forced into doing it by his death with Andor before him, so it does actually make a bit of sense to give Uldren this job as a sort of punishment, whether he wants it or not. Now, an interesting fact that I realized the other day is that Uldren's original character, before they changed Destiny 1's story, was basically Cayde 6. His name was the Crow. He was not the Queen's brother at this point, but a Bungie developer described him as what the Cayde character turned out to be. He was a lone wolf, charming hunter that was a mentor and gave you missions. So this Uldren was basically an early Cayde, and now I think it's a pretty crazy coincidence how he killed Cayde and might have to replace him. So I'm not sure if this was intended, but Bungie's basically brought the Uldren character full circle all the way around to be reincarnated into his original self, the kind of Vanguard Hunter self from the Axe version of Destiny 1. Maybe Bungie is trying to merge in parts of the old story into the future of the franchise, and they want Uldren to be in that role he was originally, but besides it being a pretty funny Easter egg, it's the only reason I could see them deliberately doing this if they did. So let me know if you think it's just a coincidence, or if you think him being put back into this original role could be something more. Now, as far as Dreaming City stuff, something you've probably forgotten about is the 15th Wish. It actually still has not been found yet. If you don't know, these are plates with codes hidden on them in-game in weird places. One was even inside a cutscene, but you punch these codes into a wall inside the raid, you activate 14 different hidden mechanics or Easter eggs. Some give you bonus loot, others let you skip to the final boss if you want to, but it's most likely the 15th plate isn't available unless it's the most hidden thing in Destiny ever. This one also won't be like the first 14. It's special because 15, of course, has massive lore significance. We think it was the one used by Savathun to bring the curse on the city, but we also know that is not the full story, and there's apparently more mysteries about what exactly went down with the Last Wish. I'm guessing when it does get released, it's going to tie into us finally breaking the curse on the city, which would explain it being time-gated, but there's probably a bunch more plot twists and weird stuff in there as well. Either way, seen a bunch of you guys ask me if 15 was ever found. Hopefully that explains what's going on there. So moving on, let's talk a bit about Season 6, Joker's Wild, and of course the Drifter himself, what's going on there. So as a quick note for those wondering, even though there is no raid in this DLC, in this kind of season, there is still going to be a power or light level increase, and it's going to go to 700. That is the cap for Season 6. Even though it is going to be Gambit and Drifter focused, there is going to be still some PvE content, so light level is going to be a factor. The same way the Forges were super high level and some of the quest missions were 650, expect the top level stuff in this season to be around 700. And I've seen quite a lot of people that aren't huge fans of the Gambit mode that are kind of worried if Joker's Wild might not be for them. But so far, Bungie has said there's going to be quite a few additions besides just Gambit. Also story stuff with the Drifter, who's the main character, of course, but Gambit won't be the only thing they're doing. Now, something else is that in addition to the same gambit we already have, there is going to be a new, different version, or experiences they're calling it, so we have to wait and see how that compares in the long term, but Gambit itself is definitely very polarizing. A lot of people are burnt out on it, so I guess it's pretty good timing this is coming around now to kind of make things more interesting, I guess. Bungie have said they've taken our feedback since even before Forsaken's launch on things like invaders and catch-up mechanics, heavy weapons, and apparently most of those tweaks are set to be accompanying this DLC, Joker's Wild itself. You can call it a DLC, but it will be interesting to see how much is applied to the original Gambit and this new version as well. Now, as far as the Drifter goes and the story, he of course is set to have some pretty big revelations as we go into his past, but he of course has met the Darkness, for example, like the actual real Darkness, a version of it, but also characters like Shin Malphur, the Shadows of Yore, who are somewhere around the place, but very likely to appear. I think Shin especially, he always was one of the most mysterious characters in Destiny. We never saw or even heard from him, but now we know what he sounds like in the Malfeasance questline, and also, of course, we recently saw him in official Bungie illustration. This is from the anthology lore book that I've mentioned, but we can see this is what Shin Malphur looks like, the original gunslinger, the last word owner, and also the guy that killed a Treasure Yore. So pretty cool to see him finally, and who knows, maybe he'll be actually in-game at some point soon too. Now, in terms of after the Joker's Wild story, it does seem to be heading in the direction of Thorn returning, which we know is a thing from reliable leaks, which also matches up pretty perfectly with that roadmap Bungie showed us of 2 exotics on the way in Joker's Wild. The leaks did specifically say that Rose is going to be coming, which is the uncorrupted version of Thorn, the kind of pre-version, and also Hawkmoon, the most classic hand cannon maybe of all time, which matches exactly the number of exotics Bungie has shown us on this image. So it's shaping up like there could be 4 exotic hand cannons on the way over the coming months. Now, rewinding to what we can expect before then, the main milestone is Tuesday, which consists of a large patch update, changing a bunch of stuff, and also the last word questline itself. That, for those wondering, is going to drop the hand cannon on the day, so not like Thunderlord, which took place over weeks with time-gated steps. Theoretically, it should be completable on the day, depending on how difficult some of the steps are. Of course, some of them could take a bit longer than others or may require a grind. Jumping into some Black Armory changes, we're going to see a bit of our feedback implemented on Tuesday as well. So ballistics reports will no longer be removed from your inventories on reset. You can carry 5 per character, so 15 total. Weapon frames on reset are going to be refunded into logs and also reports, but bear in mind the Radiant Matrix, the little kind of red box, that thing is going to disappear and be taken away, so that will reset. So if you're halfway through a frame, basically try and finish it before the reset on Tuesday. They're also increasing the drop rate from lore from 10% to 20%, which is pretty cool. The super rare forge emblems are going to drop from forge completions instead of bounties, and the quest to unlock the Gafanan forge is no longer going to require the final blow on that captain. So not sure why that was a thing in the first place, but at least if you're considering kind of doing that quest in the character, might as well wait till Tuesday because it's going to become a bit easier. Now, Bungie did say there is more to this update in the final patch notes, of course, but I'm not sure if we're getting any more Black Armory changes. I feel like they would have said those in the patch notes, so it's pretty safe to assume this is it. I think there's definitely some things which most of the community would like to see addressed, like, for example, having to go back to Ada to forge a weapon or not being able to select forges from orbit, and even things like unlocking the forges on all 3 characters being such a process. So not sure if Bungie plan on doing any of these things. Some of them might be just by design and can't be fixed, but hopefully others can be spoken about soon. At least we do know from Luke Smith they are going to be putting a bunch of our feedback from Black Armory into Joker's Wild, mainly having more content available on the day of launch and also not having day 1 activities at such a high recommended level. So that's definitely good news. Now, as far as some other changes, basically all the subclasses are getting pretty significant buffs and changes. So pretty much everything except the Nova Warp and Blade Barrage, those are getting small nerfs. I think the most interesting one sounds like the Golden Gun, the 6-shot version. This is now going to return a bullet on every single kill. That sounds pretty crazy in both Crucible and PvE. In theory, you can just nuke anything in that kind of short period of time. Considering the amount of damage, the aim assist, and rate of fire of Golden Gun, especially in Mayhem, this thing could very easily get some 7th columns, I'd imagine. If it's adding a bullet, then it's probably a case of just zapping everything on screen until it runs out. Now, something pretty strange is that Bungie did say in the notes that this Golden Gun change is going to bring increased uptime to your super. For Way of the Outlaw, this means a skill-based mechanic to extend it. So twice, they talk about extending the super, making it actually longer, not just adding a bullet. I mean, by this logic, it sounds way too good to be true. I mean, that physically just doesn't make sense. You could, in theory, go through a strike, pop a super, and just kill everything until the end of the strike. Until you run out of enemies to kill, you can just keep on just shooting stuff with Golden Gun, basically. I think I'm going to reserve judgment until I see it in game, because again, it sounds way too good to be true, way too powerful, but I'm sure either way it's going to be a massive increase compared to what we have now, which is a very kind of underpowered subclass. So let me know what you guys think about this and which subclass are you more excited about. The Golden Gun does seem to have more kind of significant changes though. Now, as far as the Crucible, we're going to be seeing quite a few changes in terms of weapon archetypes, which hopefully means some good balancing as well as changes and new weapons coming up and being good now. In terms of what's changing, we're going to see auto rifles in general get a damage base increase for rapid fire, adaptive, and high impact frames. Scout rifles are also, of course, pretty neglected right now, but these are getting a base damage increase on all lightweight and rapid fire families, as well as all scout rifles across all of PvE as well. In terms of exotics, a weapon I've definitely forgotten existed is the Legend of Acuras. This thing is getting a nice buff, so base damage is going to be bumped slightly, as well as the range. It's pretty crazy that back in the early Destiny 2 days, this was the most powerful exotic in the game. It was incredible. A lot of people call for it to be nerfed, but now, because it's still in that heavy slot, it's basically been drowned out by every other weapon that's now entered it. On the other hand, two weapons getting nerfed are going to be the Telesto and Wave Splitter. Both weapons in the energy slot, arguably more powerful than Legend of Acuras is right now, but those are monster crucial right now, and they're going to get scaled back a bit. The Trace Rifle category in general is going to get more ammo inside Crucible, which is nice because they definitely need that, but of course Wave Splitter is an outlier in terms of damage that is going to be reduced. I think some weapons in Destiny definitely have a bit of an identity crisis into what slot they should be in. You got weapons like Acuras and Telesto, which are maybe too powerful or special, but not good enough to be in heavy, so it's kind of a weird situation. So either way, after a pretty slow start to the year, it does seem like things are going to be picking up beginning on Tuesday. Look out for some videos on this channel covering everything when it goes live, of course. If you don't want to miss out my future videos, then feel free to press the subscribe button down below, and the bell next to it will keep you up to date with my videos. If you enjoyed this video, then a like rating before you leave is much appreciated. And this image will take you to another Destiny 2 video I made. But as always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.